child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear.
sound that saved my life. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. He took my shame, he took my pain. My Jesus gave me his name, and now I reign with him. All my days I'll sing his praise. Everywhere that I go, everything that I do, all I see is grace. Everywhere that I go, everything that I do,
see grace.
Grace, great grace.
All I see is grace.
Amazing grace, amazing grace is the story of my life. It's not by power, it's not by might, it's by the Spirit of the Lord. It's not by hard work, it's not by skills. Divine help is what I enjoy. I'm not afraid of tomorrow. I have grace, great grace. Everywhere that I go, everything that I do,
All I see is grace.
everywhere that I go, everything that I do,
All I see is grace.
grace, grace,
I see grace.
great grace,
All I see is grace.
great grace,
I see grace.
great grace.
All I see is grace.
The hand of Jehovah is at work in my life. The Spirit of Yahweh is at work in my heart. Everywhere that I go, everything that I do,
All I see is grace.
everywhere that I go, everything that I do, hey,
All I see is grace.
everywhere that I go,
I see grace.
hey, everything that I do,
All I see is grace.
I have help,
I see grace.
the help of God.
All I see is grace.
The grace of God is my advantage.
I see grace.
The grace of God is my
All
advantage.
I see is
The
grace.
weapons of our warfare are not
I
carnal.
see
They
grace.
are mighty. They are
All I
mighty.
see is
Through
grace.
God. Yeah, yeah.
I see grace.
Great grace.
All I see is grace.
Great grace. Great grace. Oh, great grace. All I see is grace. All I see is grace. The grace of our Lord Jesus, the love of the Father, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit abiding with us all the days of our lives and forever.
Welcome to another exciting time of word, worship, and praise, streaming live from the place of His presence, Bethel Christian Center, Abuja. BCC is a youth and young adult church of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and we are a church committed to propagating the gospel of Jesus Christ and also to impact our generation positively. I hope as you connect to us, you'll be richly blessed and your life will not remain the same again in Jesus' name. Stay tuned.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pharmacist Justus Eze. We are here to discuss an important topic that says dangers of self-medication. Drugs are actually poisons. The difference is only the dose, says one major pioneer in the field of pharmacy called Paracelsus. So because drugs are poisons, it's very necessary that we actually understand the proper usage, how they should be used, the dangers when they are misused or abused, and how to avoid these dangers. That is why we are here this evening, and we will be touching a whole lot of issues. First of all, let's begin by looking at the definition of self-medication. What is self-medication? Self-medication is actually the use of drugs to treat self-diagnosed disorders or symptoms, or the intermittent or continued use of prescription drugs to treat chronic or recurrent symptoms or disorders. So I will throw a little bit light on this so that we all understand what I mean, because I kind of use some professional terms. So I first of all say self-diagnosed. You know, when someone starts having some feelings of unwell, and one begins to imagine, it could be is this, it could be is that, and probably the person has 1 or 2 tablets at home, then the person will quickly assume, let's use headache as a case study now. The person quickly assumes that, oh, this is headache, and the person runs over to get a drug and start taking without a doctor's prescription or consulting a healthcare professional. That is what we mean by self-medication. When one self-diagnoses oneself, that's what we are talking about. It could also mean a situation where one takes a drug intermittently. Maybe last week you had a chest pain and you went to a hospital or a pharmacy, and the doctor or the pharmacist gave you some drugs, and then you took it within those moments and you got some relief. And then maybe in a week or 2 weeks time, you now had another thing you feel is chest pain too, and then maybe you have some remnants of tablets that you didn't finish the other time, and then you quickly run over and you remember it was at the cupboard. Then you go there, pick it up, and then start sipping it down with water. So this is what we call self-medication. It could actually also mean drugs you take for chronic illnesses. Let's say you have hypertension, and then you go to the hospital or to the clinic, and the doctor gave you some drugs, and then you took it within those moments, and then you feel you have some relief, and then you decided to stop. Then all of a sudden you start feeling some other symptoms that was similar to what you felt the other time, and then you quickly run over to the cupboard or wherever you kept your drugs, and then start taking again. So this is what we call self-medication. And there are some factors that actually lead to this practice. There are so many things that lead to it. Personally, I classified it into 2. I classified some as external factors and some as internal factors. The external ones are the ones that one might not change by oneself. Something like the failure of the healthcare system. This is one of the causes of self-medication, and a client or a customer might not have much to do about that. That is why I refer to it as an external factor, which the person might not actually have enough power to change. And other things are growth of healthcare costs, because of so many things, which I might not go into. I am not an economist, but I know we all know what goes on with dollar, with exchange and all that, and how it affects the price of things. And this thing boils down to increment in healthcare costs. And because of that, one might actually not have enough money to pass through the rigorous processes that one needs to pass through to be able to be given proper medical attention. There are other things too, like advertisements. If you open your gadget, maybe your handset, there are ads these days that advertise drugs. Even in television stations, they advertise drugs. There are some ethical regulations to the advertisements of drugs, which we might not go into. is not the subject of our discussion right now. But many people have been in a practice setting, and the customer walked in and then told me that there's this drug he saw on an advert and I should give it to him. I say, which drug? What is he used for? He said the way the person that advertised the drug was demonstrating was similar to what he's feeling, you see. So I actually told him, sir, drugs are not taken that way. You have to tell us what you feel. Let's understand the situation and ask you questions and know which drug we are going to give you. You don't just walk in and then tell us to give you this and give you that. So I was able to convince him to tell us what he wanted. So advertisement is another cause of self-medication. And then maldistribution of health resources. These are other technical terms. You know, there are tendencies that the drugs you see here in Abuja, you might not meet them in Lagos. You might not meet them in the north. So this can actually trigger self-medication. You can come and look for this drug and it's not there. Then you just take any other alternative you could see, because the one probably that you were asked to buy by a doctor or a physician or a pharmacist is not around, that is not available in that environment. Then you can just quickly switch over to any other one. Okay, let me just take any other one, something like that, and end up self-medicating. There are other internal factors that are actually that stems from the client or the patient himself or herself. These are things like stigma. You know, there are people that maybe that have some health conditions that they are kind of reserved to talk about. Let's say people that have sexually transmitted illnesses, people that have libido issues. Most times when they walk into the pharmacy or the clinic, instead of being down to earth, explaining what they want, they will be like, okay, just give me this, give me that. You will be like, okay, why do you want this? They will, don't worry, I know what I'm doing with it. I know why I'm using it. So people like this, they end up self-medicating because they don't want to come out outrightly to say what they want, because maybe they are shy and something like that. But it shouldn't be that way, as we are soon going to see. And then there are other factors like ignorance. People don't actually know what they are doing to themselves. People don't know what they are doing to themselves by self-medicating. I started this discussion by telling us that drugs are poisons. So if one knows that he's at the lifeline between life and death by what he or she is taking, the person ought to be careful. But because we look at drugs as our friends, we can easily swallow pills without knowing what they can do to our systems. But I want us to all know that drugs are actually poisons. The only difference is the dose and what you are using it for, and what you are using it for at a particular time. Do you understand? So I want us to all know that whenever it comes to drugs, there are people that are experts on drugs. You should open up to, you should confide in them. Tell them what you need. Tell them what you're passing through. They will be in a better position to advise you. They will be in a better position to prescribe drugs for you, or to recommend drugs, to recommend tests, to even be sure if you are even qualified to take such drugs. So these are some of the causes. Another one is sympathy. You know, maybe a mother has a child and then wakes up late at night and find out that love, it might not necessarily be because the person wants to harm the child. It's just that sympathy that she has for the child. This might prompt her to self-medicate the child without seeking medical advice. Or let's say someone's mother is sick, and then you feel like, how can I just be here watching my mother die? Then somebody can just quickly run over somewhere, or go to the cupboard or to the shelves and get drugs and give to his or her parents. So these are some of the causes of self-medication. Another one I want to point out is literacy, one's economic status. I've actually understood that most times if I'm in a practice setting, I discover that there are some caliber of people that will walk into the pharmacy, and I will, in my church mind, like to tell them, okay, what do you want? What can we give you? And probably the person meets with people from different strata in the society. They will be like, who is even this small boy that will be interrogating me? I don't, you know what? Just give me this, just give me that, and all that. So I want us to know that the little boy behind that counter or behind that shelf has passed through relevant trainings that qualifies him to interact with you, to actually help you, because he is there to help, to improve your life, to make you get better. He's not there to talk down on you or to look down on you or to disrespect you. The approach might differ, but the goal at the end of the day is just to make sure that you get better at the end of the day. Then please, I want to say this again. I have actually observed that some people come to the pharmacy and I'm trying to give them some drugs. They will tell me that my mother is a nurse or my father is a doctor. You don't tell me anything about that. Now, this is very technical. I understand that there are health professionals that are qualified to do certain things at certain times, but you don't use a foreknowledge you have about what maybe your mother does or what your father does, that is a doctor, that is a nurse, and then you borrow that understanding or that information to start taking drugs. Now, I think that is not really okay. I think what should be done is you walk into the setting and talk to people, tell them what you want. If you go to the hospital, don't tell the doctor that, no, I have someone that knows more than you, or I have someone that have told me what to do. I think it's just better to table your case to the professional, and then the person will use his expertise, his professionalism, and his experience to give you the right medication. Then let's come down to the dangers proper. Dangers of self-medication. That is actually the essence of this discourse. First of all, I want to say that the human body is made up of different organs. The anatomy of the body and the physiology of the body is such that we have organs like the lungs, like the liver, like the kidney, that all work together for the effective coordination and effective well-being of an individual. So now, drugs that we take have effects on these organs. So I want to say that drugs can actually, self-medication can actually lead to organ damage. There are several drugs that can actually damage several organs. I want to be a little bit practical. Let me talk about the liver. There are certain drugs that that affect the liver. Something like paracetamol. As simple as paracetamol is, it has an effect on the liver. And it has been observed that doses above 8 grams in a day can cause acute liver damage. And a liver problem is not what anybody should pray for. So we should not look down on any drug. I just said paracetamol, as simple as we think it is, it can actually damage our liver. Acutely, just within a day, your liver will kind of shut down. So I want us to understand that drugs affect our organs. Something like ibuprofen also affects the liver, and so many other drugs. Now, if I necessarily ask you now, what are the drugs that affect the kidney? I'm sure you might not have any idea, unless you are a health professional. And if you don't know, then those drugs you run quickly across the pharmacy or go anywhere to get and take, you don't really know what they are doing to your system. There are many people that have come down with hearing loss because of the drugs they take. There are several antibiotics that actually have effect in the ear. And there are so many other drugs, antihypertensive drugs, we call them loop diuretics, that actually have effect in the ear. And you might not know what they are doing to you. So if you just run across the pharmacy and get these drugs and start taking, you might end up causing more harm than good to yourself. So in order not to damage our organs, I think we should stay clear from self-medication. Another one I want to talk about is drug abuse. Drug abuse is a very, very critical thing in the society now. And if you look at the epidemiology, how this thing has actually permeated the society, you find out that probably 6 out of 10 youths are involved in a kind of abuse of one drug or the other. And if care is not taken, it is not leading us to a very good end. So that is why this discussion is very important. And as part of the World Health Organization action plan to curb some of this, they have mapped out effective communication like we are doing right now to tell people that these practices are hazardous, they are very injurious to our systems, and we should abstain from them. There are many drugs that we take for cough, as simple as they are, but these drugs are habit forming. Abuse comes as a result of repeated use of a particular medication, and before you know it, because of the nature of these drugs, how they are actually how they work, we call them the pharmacodynamics, how they work in the body, they can actually trigger what we call dependence. They can trigger what we call addictions, such that you might not do without taking them. There is a technical difference between dependence and addiction, but we might not go into that. I just want you to know that addiction is a case where you know the consequences of taking a drug, but then you can't do without taking them. You know that these drugs have a harmful effect on you, but you can't stop taking it. There is a compulsive use of that drug. So at this point, one should know that one is already addicted to a medication. Sometimes there are certain habits, certain things we might not do unless we take certain drugs. At that point, we're already dependent on those medications. And within the line, there's what we call tolerance. If you are using a tablet before, you find out that tablet, your body will get used to it. You need to continue and move over to 2 tablets. Now, if you are using 2 tablets, maybe within some time, your body will get used to that 2 tablets and you need to be taking 3. And this is how dangerous these drugs are. You keep on piling up, increasing the dose for yourself, and then having the deleterious effects on your organs, on your body, and at the end of the day, your quality of life will be going down. So that is why self-medication is dangerous. Parents should warn their children about self-medications. Parents themselves should also know that self-medication is dangerous. For children in boarding school, they should also know that self-medication is dangerous. University students, maybe your parents are not there to monitor you, to tell you, to compel you to use those drugs. But just know it now that they all have an effect on you. And you don't want to be an addict, do you? You can. It's not something anybody would like to be. And then there's what we call drug interaction. This is another effect of self-medication. Okay, let me define drug interaction. Drug interaction is when the effects of a drug is enhanced or diminished by the intake of another drug, or when the side effect of a drug is enhanced by the presence of another drug. It could also mean when the intended therapeutic outcome that is expected to get from a drug is cancelled out by the concomitant use of another drug. This is what we call drug interaction. Okay, let me just use numeric figures to explain, alphabetical figures. Let's say you take drug A, and then that drug A is meant to make you walk faster. I'm just being a kind of, let me just be exemplary here. And then you take that drug A that should ordinarily make you to walk faster, and then take another drug B, and then because of the presence of that drug B, the effect of drug A will be cancelled out. You will take it and then take drug B together. Then instead of walking faster, you find yourself maybe lethargic, weak, tired, because its effect has been cancelled out by the second drug. This is what we call drug interaction. And then if I want to ask you now, what drugs interact with antacids? I don't think you know. And these are drugs you easily walk across the pharmacy to procure, to buy. Taking this, taking that, and then cancelling out the effect of all. And then at the end of the day, there is you are wasting resources, you are wasting your time, and the condition you want to arrest remain untreated. So this is what we call drug interaction. Some other times, these effects are hazardous to the system. There are people that have come up with skin rashes because of the concomitant use of these drugs. Okay, now let me be a little bit practical. There's what we call antacids, something like polygel, something like algicid, something like Maxils, something like Gestid. So these are the antacids we normally use to cushion the effect of gastric disorders or diseases. So when you take these drugs and then you take some other drugs like iron preparations, you take something like ciprofloxacin, you take something like azithromycin, there is an interaction. The effect of these drugs, ciprofloxacin, is cancelled out by the presence of the antacids in your system, or the effect of the antacid is cancelled out by the presence of the antibiotics in your system. So at the end of the day, the drugs will interact and either cancel out their effect, and then the intended goal is defeated. So at the end of the day, you have wasted your money, like I said, you have wasted your time, and the goal you want to achieve, you will not achieve it. There are so many other drugs that interact. People that are on contraceptives, there are drugs that lower the effect of contraceptive pills. You know, somebody will say, okay, I am on this contraceptive method, and then I ended up conceiving. And the person will now probably go to litigate the pharmacist that gave the drug, or to trigger up legal actions. But what they might not know is that the effect of these drugs are cancelled out by the concomitant use of other drugs. So some of these things are called drug interactions, and they are the effects of self-medication. Okay, there is also what we call misdiagnosis. There is what we call syndrome, symptoms, signs. Diseases comes up with signs and symptoms, and sometimes these signs and symptoms overlap. The signs that is consistent with one disease might actually also be consistent with another disease. And then maybe you have that sign, that symptom, then you feel like, okay, you have headache, and then this is what I want to take. I think is this, without knowing that something else can actually trigger headache in your body. And then you go and start taking drugs, and then at the end of the day, see the danger here. The main problem causing that headache remains untreated. That's why I tagged it misdiagnosis. You are actually shooting the wrong target. And at the end of the day, the main disease condition or the disorder will be escalating, and you'll be treating something else. And at the end of the day, your organs and your systems will be shutting down, and you will be telling yourself in quotes that I'm taking drugs, without knowing that you are gradually dying. So this is why self-medication is dangerous. You can misdiagnose, and it can affect your organs. If you are hypertensive and you are taking drug for diabetes, you find out that you come down with the polytriads of all the symptoms of hypertension. You have all those cases. Let me not go into the details about the hypertensive complications and what they come up with, but they are not things I would wish for anybody to have. And you can avoid these things by what? Not self-medicating. Then there is also what we call antibiotic resistance. Actually, this is a very is a global concern now to World Health Organization. In 2013, a consensus was reached on to map out action plans on what to do to actually reduce the incidence of antibiotic resistance. We might not know what I mean by this. Let me just throw light on that. Antibiotic resistance is that there is a germ in your system that is causing typhoid. And normally, when you take Cipro, I'm just giving an instance. I'm not saying when you have typhoid, go and take Cipro. I'm just trying to give an instance. Let's say there's a germ in your body that is causing typhoid. And then if you take ciprofloxacin for a minimum of 7 days, that germ will be eradicated. It will be cleansed out of your system. But over time, because of how you use drugs, you now find out that the germ is present in your body, but you are using ciprofloxacin, but it's not doing anything to the microorganism in your system. The expectation of the physician or the pharmacist is that, okay, take this drug for 7 days, after which you should have a relief or you should be cured. But at the end of the day, you use the drug for 7 days and nothing is happening. This is what we call antibiotic resistance. The microorganism in your system has developed strategies to avoid the effect of that drug, or to even cancel it out and to dodge the effect of that drug on them. They have devised strategies. It's just like wearing bulletproof. I can give that analogy. Let's say you are shooting at a target, and ordinarily if you shoot 2 bullets, the person should die. Then you shot the person, maybe it paralyzed his hand, and he actually discovered how poisonous that bullet is and went and wore bulletproof. At the end of the day, if you shoot that person, the bullet will not penetrate again. Why? Because the person is putting on bulletproof. So this is how microorganisms develop resistance to microorganisms. If you are meant to shoot that microorganism with a particular drug, and then you fail to use that particular drug, and maybe run over to the pharmacy and then get a medication of your choice and then use it for the treatment of the ailment, there are chances that that drug you are using is not designed to treat that microorganism. Let me also use an analogy. Let's say you are meant to shoot at a victim with a chain bullet, AK-47, and then you are using a toy gun. Now, the victim will be laughing at you because the toy gun you are shooting, or the bullet, what do they call it? Plastic bullets. I don't know what rubber bullets or what, I don't know. So maybe you use a rubber bullet and shoot at the victim. The victim will maybe fall down and stand up again, and then come with force to kill you. So this is how microorganisms behave. There are actually some recommended antibiotics for all microorganisms. Not only that, these drugs are recommended, there is a particular duration of usage. There is a particular duration that you should use these drugs for an effect to be triggered or for cure rates to be achieved. But if you don't use these drugs, then end up using another one or not using it as stipulated, you find out that a problem is going to come up. So that is why it is dangerous to self-medicate. So with all these points we have actually given us today, I think we are now on the know as to the dangerous side of self-medication. Drugs are good. They are designed after so many strenuous exercises, researches, trials, and scientific researches, and they are meant to help to improve our lives and well-being if used with expert advice. So don't self-medicate. Don't take drugs by yourself. If you want to take drugs, consult a physician. Take the full course of the drug. Don't use leftover drugs. Don't use a drug given to your friend, to your sibling, to your parents. And make sure that whenever you are in a health setting, you open up to the healthcare practitioner, and they will guide you appropriately on the right drug to use, the right approach, and then you will get your results and not be affected. Thank you very much. I believe we have had a good time and we learned one or two things. We are actually going to make room for interactions in the platform. You can actually come up with your questions, whatever is bothering you. We have a whole lot of healthcare practitioners here. Our coordinator is there to attend to you. You can approach her, you can send a text, you can organize a discussion with her to guide you, and then they are always there and they will happily attend to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us once again. We're always glad when we have you live on our program. As I said earlier, this is Bethel Christian Center. I look forward to seeing you next time at your convenient time. However, if the Lord is laying it on your heart to support the church in the area of finance, be it in your tithe and offering or to support our live streaming, we'll be glad to have you send in your love offering to us. Our various account details are projected at the moment. Also, we would like to invite you to join us on any of our social media platforms. The various handles are also displayed at the moment. While I look forward to seeing you next time, stay safe, be safe, and God bless you.